Hello and welcome to A Year to Remember. I'm Cliff Morgan with a collection of just some of the music and memories, sounds and events in that dramatic year of 1940. 1940 must be one of the most historic years in the 20th century. Here in Britain, we faced the real prospect of being invaded. War had been declared in September the year before, but there had been very little action except at sea. People were complacent and bored because little had changed from peacetime, save for the blackout and the preparations that had been made for the air attacks which still hadn't come. The first 4 months of 1940 were still part of the phony war, but then, with a shocking suddenness, no war became absolute total war. Everyone in Britain was in the front line, blown up, firebombed, and with our supplies almost cut off. These were desperate days. At first, though, the tunes we heard over the wireless, like the comedy programs, were defiantly hearty and happy.
It's a happy day, toodle-oodle-oodle-oodle-oodle-day. For you and me, for us and we, all the clouds have rolled away. It's a happy day, toodle-oodle-oodle-oodle-oodle-day. The sun shines bright and the world's all right. It's a happy day. 4 and 20 sunbeams are dancing round my face. 4 and 20 more are dancing every place. It's a happy day, toodle-oodle-oodle-oodle-oodle-day. You can't go wrong if you sing a song. It's a happy day.
I was 10 years old at the time, living in a terrace house in a tiny mining village on the edge of the Rhondda Valley in South Wales, where coal had created wealth and misery. It was a place of extraordinary vitality and humour, of choirs and Sunday schools, of political and religious fever. The wireless, the Welsh Home Service and the Light programme played an important part in our lives. We relied on it for all our information and a great deal of our entertainment too. The BBC transmitted 78 news bulletins every day in 34 different languages around the world. In those days, most wireless sets ran on batteries, and batteries became hard to get.
This is the Forces Programme. Parlez-vous français? If you don't, you jolly well ought to. Well, here's the first of some French lessons. Very easy lessons indeed.
Days for being injured by splinters from German bombs. The women have reacted to these suggestions and alarms by requesting their milliners to shape the spring and summer hats out of very thin tin plate, which is covered with silk, velvet, or other draping material.
Lord, ho, ho, the humbug of Hamburg, the babbling Burg of Berlin. This is Germany calling, so bing to Larrow. And thank you for listening.
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is a short news bulletin. The German army invaded Holland and Belgium early this morning by land and by landings from parachutes. The armies of the Low Countries are resisting. All civil defense organizations in this country...
The German panzer divisions and paratroopers moved into Denmark and Norway. Then, on the 10th of May, the Germans began bombing and strafing the airfields of France, and the impregnable French Maginot Line was flown over and swept around as the German forces made their way through neutral Holland, Belgium and Luxembourg, while our forces tried in vain to stem the flood. Back home, Leo Emery pointed to Prime Minister Chamberlain and, quoting from Cromwell, said, "Depart, I say, in the name of God, go." And he did. Up stepped Winston Churchill, who within days went to France to see what the situation was. It was grave. The British Expeditionary Force in the north was trapped by the Germans. They retreated towards Dunkirk. "Nothing but a miracle can save them," said General Gort. But miracles do happen. Major General Carpenter, then a second lieutenant in the 50th Division, was there.
I arrived down there on the night of the 31st of May. a dark and quiet night, fortunately. We marched down to the beach and got into the sand dunes. I, at the time, was 18 years old, and I was a platoon commander. As it got light, we looked out to sea, and we couldn't see anything. There were no ships in sight at all. The sea was quiet, and the water was shallow. And then as it gradually got lighter, we saw ships starting to appear on the skyline, but they couldn't get close into the shore because of the shallow water. As it got light, the German Air Force came over and started to bomb. Fortunately, the bombers were mostly going for the warships, like destroyers and so on. The beach was machine gun, mainly. And as we were in the sand dunes, we were able to snuggle into the soft sand and, as a result, did not really have too bad a time. I remember very well seeing a ship's lifeboat which had drifted in, having obviously been used the day before. I got 2 or 3 of my lads and we waded out, got hold of this boat. It had some oars in it, got the whole platoon in, and we proceeded to paddle out to sea and eventually came alongside a Dutch coaster, a scoot, and we were all dragged aboard this little vessel.
There's a boy coming home on leave. There's a girl wants him home on leave. She'll meet him right at the station. And will she tell all the nation? There's a boy coming home on leave. And his heart won't be on his sleeve. They'll have a grand celebration when he comes home on leave.
I personally thought we would have been treated rather as people who'd lost the match. You know, we were well beaten. But the people received us as though we'd won the war. Reception committees, every time the train stopped anywhere, the local ladies producing cups of tea and sandwiches, lots of cheering and all this sort of thing. Most of us were so tired, I think it just went over the top of our heads. But no, it was quite extraordinary that we were welcomed more or less as heroes, when in fact we weren't really.
Britain was preparing for invasion and siege. Everyone set about doing their bit. Churchill rallied the nation. All soldiers armed themselves as best they could with old First World War bayonets, pitchforks and so on, and joined the local defence volunteers, the Home Guard.
Since the war began, the government have received countless inquiries from all over the kingdom, from men of all ages who are for one reason or another not at present engaged in military service, and who wish to do something for the defense of their country. Well, now is your opportunity.
And now, folks, I'm going to sing a song for the first time, and it's called The Home Guard. Now, I'm a Home Guard, so I hope all my Home Guard pals in Blackpool are listening, especially the section leader. Right, oh, Jerry. Now behold in me an LDV, for battle I'm just yearning, doing my best like all the rest, to keep the home fires burning, each evening stiffer start. Up and down the street I march, I'm guarding the home of the Home Guards, guarding the Home Guards home.
We want large numbers of such men in Great Britain. When on duty, you will form part of the armed forces, and your period of service will be for the duration of the war. You will not be paid, but you will receive uniform and will be armed.
This is Radio 2, and I'm Cliff Morgan, bringing you a year to remember, the year 1940. It was September, and the Battle of Britain was about to be fought. Hitler's plan was to annihilate the RAF first, then invade. Fighter Command had his Hurricanes and Spitfires, and the invaluable aid of the newly installed early warning radar system. The air was filled with bombers and fighters, and their vapor trails crisscrossed the summer sky. The Germans tried to lure the RAF out from their bases into the Channel, where the Germans dive-bombed the convoys. It was a battle the Germans were to lose.
If I only had wings, I'd fly like a birdie in the sky. With the tra-la-la-la, a tree-tree-tree-tree, it's a pair of wings for me. Take a trip to the moon on high. Ask him why he winks his eye. With the tra-la-la-la, a tree-tree-tree-tree, it's a pair of wings.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 German dive bombers, Junkers 87s. There's one going down on his target now. Bomb. No, missed the ships. He hasn't hit a single ship. There are about 10 ships in the convoy, but he hasn't hit a single one. And there you can hear our anti-aircraft going at them now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 10 German machines dive bombing a British convoy, which is just out to sea in the Channel. Right. Well, there's another fight going on way up now. I say about 20, 25,000, even 30,000 feet above our heads, and we can't see a thing of it. The anti-aircraft guns have just put up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bursts, but I can't see the aeroplanes. There we go again. What? What? Yes, oh, we've just hit a Messerschmitt. Oh, that was beautiful. He's coming right down now. I think definitely that burst got him. Oh, whoops, there's a dogfight going up there. There are 4, 5, 6 machines wheeling and turning around. Now, hark at the machine guns going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, there's something coming right down on the tail of another. Here they go. They're going back up. Yes, they're being chased home, and how they're being chased home. There are 3 Spitfires chasing 3 Messerschmitts now. Oh, boy, look at them going. And look how the Messerschmitt... Hey, that is really grand. And there's a Spitfire just behind the first 2. He'll get them. Oh, yes. Oh, boy, I've never seen anything so good as this. The RAF fighters have really got these boys' taste.
If I only had wings, I'd fly, fly, fly like the birdie in the sky. It's a pair of wings for me. Take a trip to the moon. Over the moon on high, ask him why he wins his eye.
Having failed to destroy the RAF, Hitler turned his attention on bombing towns and cities. In London, the platforms in the underground were crowded with sleeping families. Nobody told them to go down there, they just did. Not that they were all that safe there. A direct hit killed hundreds in South London. The most terrible night of the Blitz was on the night of the 7th, 8th of September, which began 2 whole months of raids on London, followed by Glasgow, Belfast, Plymouth, Portsmouth and Southampton and Swansea, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield and Hull. Nowhere was safe. When Londoners came out of their holes in the ground, like troglodytes, they didn't know if they had homes, schools, factories, offices to go to.
I've got a cozy flat. There's a place for your hat. I'll wear a pink chiffon negligee gown. And do I know my stuff? But if that's not enough, I've got the deepest shelter in town. Now Mr. Morrison says he's getting things done, and he's a man of the greatest renown. But before it gets wrecked, I hope he'll come and inspect the deepest shelter in town.
If he thinks he can win the war by bombing women and children, he's found a big mistake.
The morale of the British people is simply amazing, and the working classes have been that I've been looking after in this shelter have been singing the whole night through. 4 bombs have dropped round them, huge craters there, and their houses into bits, and they've sung the whole night through until we told them it was all clear to come out. When they drank tea, pots of tea, gallons of it, and plenty of sandwiches and plenty of cake, and still they're cheerful.
That certain night, the night we met, there was magic abroad in the air. There were angels dining at the Ritz, and a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. I may be right, I may be wrong, but I'm perfectly willing to swear that when you turned and smiled at me, a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square.
The country was blacked out at night, and the number of road casualties leapt up. Dogs wore luminous collars, cows were painted white, as were curbside trees, and there was a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit after dark. Rationing really began. 4 ounces of butter, 12 of sugar per person per week, and no more lemons or bananas for the duration. Pots and pans, rusty old farm machinery, and even garden railings were collected as scrap to make munitions.
You can see Britain's war effort in full swing in the parks of London. Every ounce of iron that can be spared is heading toward the furnaces. But they're not going to take down the railings round the outside of the parks. So if John and Mary thought they might have moonlight walks among the trees, they're going to be unlucky.
There was a thriving black market. If you had the money, there was always a spiv who would get you anything. But the majority were out there digging for victory and cooking up unheard-of dishes. I remember dried eggs and spam very well.
In days gone by, we wouldn't have thought of lighting more than 2 cigarettes with 1 match. But with matches costing 12 times as much as in 1914, it's a different story. Mind your fingers. Cigarettes, too, are expensive. So we males have additional opportunities for courtly gestures. Fag rolling for the fair sex. Identity discs, some on the wrist, and if the ankle is slim, and if it isn't, oh, well. The contents of a man's pocket nowadays show many of the little things we have got used to. A whistle, ration card, petrol coupons, identity cards, a torch, not forgetting lunch, in case his favorite restaurant isn't there anymore.
At the outbreak of war, tens of thousands of children had been evacuated. But after months of the phony war, most had come back home. Now they're off again, with the blue labels tied to them saying who they were and where they were going. Some went abroad, and there was pressure on the royal family to send the 2 princesses to Canada, but their parents wouldn't hear of it. On the radio, Children's Hour kept going, although Broadcasting House itself was hit by bombs, and on one occasion I remember listening to a program which had some very special guests.
This is the BBC Home Service. Hello, children everywhere. Her Royal Highness, Princess Elizabeth.
In wishing you all good evening, I feel that I am speaking to friends and companions who have shared with my sister and myself many a happy children's hour. We know, every one of us, that in the end all will be well, for God will care for us and give us victory and peace. And when peace comes, remember, it will be for us, the children of today, to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place. My sister is by my side, and we are both going to say good night to you. Come on, Margaret. Good night, children. Good night, and good luck to you all.
Good night, children, everywhere. Your mommy thinks of you tonight. Lay your head upon your pillow. Don't be a kid or a weeping willow. Close your
throughout the unsettled autumn and into winter, the air raids went on. None worse than Coventry, where 60,000 buildings were destroyed, the cathedral amongst them, and almost 600 people killed in just one night. My mother's family lived there, and we prayed for them. But what else was happening in 1940? Nylon stockings were on sale in America. Vera Lynn began her long career. Disney's Pinocchio was released. John Lennon was born. We had new banknotes, blue for £1 and mauve for 10 shillings. The BBC allowed dance music to be played on Sundays, and all dances ended with the tune, "Who's Taking You Home Tonight?" The Italians were having a bad time fighting the Greeks, and that cheered us up.
Oh, Mussolini has got just a teeny suspicion he's made a mistake, saying the Mediterranean was an Italian lake. Now must be reckoned as Pope II his boast that in Greece he would win. Now every day is Iranian, what price that bristly chin? Oh, what a surprise for the Duce, he can't put it over the Greeks. Oh, what a surprise for the Duce, he's had no spaghetti for weeks.
At Christmas we had extra rations, 4 ounces of sugar and 2 of tea. And at the year's end, as we look back, we had lost the Battle of France and won the Battle of Britain. Now it was the battle for survival and the Battle of the Atlantic. It was a year we shall never forget. For those who came after, it was a year we almost, but not quite, became just part of the great German Empire. You've been listening to A Year to Remember, 1940, with me, Cliff Morgan. My producer was Virginia Crompton. Next week, I'll be remembering the year 1936. Coming up now on Radio 2, Sing Something Simple.
I'm stepping out with a memory tonight to paint the town the way we used to do. I'll dine at the old cafe where we had so much fun and order cocktails for two instead of the usual one. Then after dark, in a hansom through the park, while reminiscing, I'll be kissing you. A lot of folks may think that I'm crazy. Well, maybe they're right, but I'm stepping out with a memory